guys, Jog back to the channel. Today we've got another UFC preview and predictions. The main event this weekend is Cody No Love Garbrandt taking on Rob Font in the main event. Also, we've got a potential title eliminator at 115 pounds between Xiaonan and Carla Esparza. Also, Edmund Shahbazyan versus Jack the Joker Hermansson. This is a pretty solid 13 fight card. And folks, if you haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more UFC here on the channel. I know this video is going out on a Wednesday later than I usually post these UFC videos. They usually be out on Mondays, so be on the lookout for it, I guess, in 2 weeks when Rosenstruik and Sakai, yeah, that's a UFC main event next week, or in 2 weeks. That video will be out on Monday, but for this one, of course, it's coming out on Wednesday. Let's now get into the 13 fight predictions. Okay, we're starting off first with Ismagulov and Rafael Alves. We're going to start first with Rafael Alves, and I think everyone knows what he's famous for at this point in the UFC. He was supposed to fight Pat Sabatini over in February, and he missed weight. Now, this fight was supposed to be at 145 pounds. He didn't even make lightweight. He weighed in at 157.5. Not a good look at all. I was surprised Alves even got another shot in the UFC, if I'm being honest with you guys. He's back, and they're not doing the man any favors by taking on Ismagulov. And Ismagulov is a tremendous fighter. He's 22-1. It's a tough fight for Rafael Alves. That's how simple I'm gonna keep it right now. Yes, he is currently on a 5-fight winning streak with wins in Combate, Titan FC, and in the Contender Series, but it's going to be a tough road for Rafael Alves to win this fight. He's pretty solid on the ground. He is pretty solid on the feet as well, and I was really looking forward to the fight between him and Pat Sabatini, but unfortunately, we never got that fight because, of course, he missed weight by 12.5 pounds. Yeah, that's Rafael Alves. We're going to turn to his opponent now in Ismagulov, and yeah, I think Ismagulov's going to win this fight. I'm going to spoil my prediction right now. There's a reason Rafael Alves is currently like a plus 400 underdog. There's a reason for that. Ismagulov coming into this fight with a record of 19-1. His only loss came in 2015 where he lost by decision over an M1 in Russia. He has been spectacular ever since. The former M1 lightweight champion. Of course, he had to vacate that after coming to the UFC, and since he's joined the UFC, currently 3-0, got a win in his UFC debut on the Dos Santos versus Tuivasa card in December of 2018, won by unanimous decision. And after that, he turns around, beats a really good fighter in Joel Alvarez by unanimous decision on the Bukovic Santos card, and then beats Thiago Moises by unanimous decision on the Jessica Andrade and Zhang Weili card in China. Hey, Thiago Moises is now a ranked fighter in the UFC. They just moved him up in the rankings, and he's going to take on Islam Makhachev in his next fight. Yikes on that part, but that just shows you how good Ismagulov is. His last fight, he beat a currently ranked fighter in the UFC. I don't really get why this fight was booked other than to just punish Rafael Alves for missing weight in his last fight. And yeah, Ismagulov's going to win this one. It's going to be a pretty dominant decision. He's going to get the job done, I think, pretty easily. Now we've got Hadzovic and Yancy Medeiros. Yeah, a really weird fight here this early on in the card. We're going to start first with Hadzovic. His last fight was a loss to Renato Moicano on the Leo Oliveira card over in Brasilia. He lost that fight about 40 seconds, got submitted right away. Moicano still yelled at him after he beat him, and that was that fight. Before that for Hadzovic, though, he did lose to Christos Giagos by unanimous decision, and most recently we just saw Christos Giagos pick up a really good win over Sean Soriano at UFC 262 just last week. And then before that for Hadzovic, he beat Marco Polo Reyes by TKO, and then before that picked up a win over Nick Hein, lost to Alan Patrick before that, beat Marcin Held, and then lost his UFC debut. Yeah, it's been a mixed bag result so far for Hadzovic. He's been good at times, and he's been not great at times as well. He's coming into this fight with a 2-fight losing streak, and yeah, for Yancy Medeiros, he is coming off a losing streak as well. He's lost his last 3, and we're going to talk about Medeiros more in just a second. But if Hadzovic is going to win this fight, it's probably going to be on the feet. If Medeiros is going to win this fight, it's probably going to be on the feet as well. I expect a stand-up fight in this one. It's going to be who can land that big shot first. And that's really how simple I can leave it for you. This is going to be a weird fight. It's just going to be two guys who are kind of older in the weight class, especially for lightweight. Hadzovic is 34, Yancy Medeiros is 33. And yeah, that's Hadzovic coming into this fight with a record of 13 wins and 6 losses. Let's talk about his opponent in the former headliner in Yancy Medeiros. And yeah, Yancy Medeiros, former headliner of a Fight Night card. It was Cowboy versus Medeiros. You got to go all the way back to February of 2018 in Austin, Texas. Don Cowboy Cerrone put away Yancy Medeiros late in that first round. It's a weird main event, it really is, because Cowboy and Yancy Medeiros, they're all buddy-buddy before the fight, and even like Cowboy's like knocking down Medeiros. Medeiros gets back up, they high-five. It's a weird Cowboy fight to watch, most definitely the weirdest Cowboy fight you are going to see. And yeah, Cowboy still beats Yancy Medeiros in that fight. And then after that from Medeiros, he took a fight against Gregor Gillespie. He lost that one a year after the Cowboy fight on Cejudo Dillashaw. And then a year later, he loses to Lando Groovy Venata by unanimous decision over in Rio Rancho on the Anderson Blachowicz 2 card. So this is really make or break right now in the UFC for Yancy Medeiros. He got knocked out twice against given two good guys in Cowboy and Gillespie. And say what you want about Cowboy Cerrone now, Gregor Gillespie just picked up a really good win most recently over Carlos Diego Ferreira. So a good fighter there. And then Lando Venata, hey, just picked up another win in the UFC, his last fight. But yeah, Medeiros, before that 3-run drought though, he did have wins over Sean Spencer, Eric Silva, and Alex Oliveira, a really good fight against Alex Oliveira in Detroit on UFC 218. And yeah, Medeiros has been in the UFC for a very long time. He made his UFC debut on UFC 159, Chael P. Sonnen versus John Jones in the fight where that fight lasted 27 more seconds. Chael Sonnen would have been the UFC champion, but he's still the greatest WEC middleweight champion in my heart. But Yancy Medeiros made his UFC debut in that one. If you want to look at his Strikeforce debut, I mean, he made his Strikeforce debut in February of 2010 in San Jose, California. I mean, Medeiros has been fighting for a very long time in major promotions in the US. Medeiros has fought the best of the best. I mean, in the UFC, you got Jim Miller, you got Dustin Poirier, you got Alex Oliveira, you got Cowboy, you got Gillespie, you got Venata. Really good fighters Yancy Medeiros has taken on, the veteran of the sport. And in this fight against Damir Hadzovic, I'm going to take Yancy Medeiros. Yeah, I'm going to take Medeiros to get the job done in this one. It's make or break right now for him in the UFC, and he's been fighting in the promotion again since 2013. I think Medeiros will beat Hadzovic. Do I think he gets a finish in this one? Yeah, I think he does. If Yancy Medeiros wins fights, it's usually by finish, and I think he'll get the job done by knockout in the second round. Now we've got Yilan taking on Joshua Culibao. I'm going to start first with Yilan making his UFC debut in this fight, currently holding a record of 19-6, coming over from various promotions over in China. Most recently, he did fight in JCK. He picked up 2 wins over there, and before that he was winning over in WLF Wars, one of the more, I guess, well-known promotions in China currently. If you want to look back to his last 5 fights, I'm sure we're gonna have this graphic popping up any second now. He is on a 2-fight winning streak. Those 2 fights were in JCK. His last fight was a win over a fighter who's currently 3-5, and before that, a fighter who was 20-10. So not great results right there. I mean, of course, he got the job done. He got wins, but still. Before that, he loses to Rongju, and Rongju just made his UFC debut not too long ago. He did lose a fight to Rodrigo Vargas, but Rongju does beat Yilan in that fight by KO in the first round. Now, something I want to mention about Yilan, this guy fights all the damn time. In 2020, this man had 7 fights. Insane. The dude fights all the damn time. He has not fought yet this year, which has probably been his longest time away from the cage, because look at 2020. He picks up a win against Alexei Oleinik. Yeah, it's not the Alexei Oleinik you're thinking of. It's some guy just from the Ukraine, but he picks up a win against Alexei Oleinik. Again, not the heavyweight. Then he picks up a win against a 9-7 fighter later that year. So the Alexei Oleinik fight is in January. He picks up one in May. Then he picks up another one in August. He loses to Zhu Rong in September. Then wins in November, and then wins in December. The guy is so damn active, and yeah, that was 6 fights, not 7 like I said earlier, but still, the man is so damn active. 2019, he fights 4 times in that year. 2018 fights 2. 2017, he fights, oh my goodness, I mean, this dude, he fought like 10 times in 2017 alone. Think about this. He has he's got 25 pro fights right now, and he's only been fighting professionally since 2016. So Yilan is very active. He goes out there and he tries to get finishes. He's got 9 wins by TKO, 9 wins by submission, and usually I think that's where he has his most trouble though. He's coming back off of short notice, and he's taking fights, and he's fighting a guy like in Rongju, who's a very good fighter, and he's getting KO'd in the first round. I think that might have been the problem, just because, hey, he's coming back after only fighting less than a month before. That could have been the problem, but again, he's coming over from these promotions against guys who might not be the greatest of talent. So that is Yilan coming to this fight with a record of 19-6. Let's talk about his opponent here in Joshua Culibao. Now, Culibao's last fight was a draw to Charles Air Jordan. I thought Charles Air Jordan won that fight, but it was a split draw. And then before that for Culibao, he makes his UFC debut in a fight against Jalen Turner, which he does lose. That was in February of last year. It was Felder and Hooker over in Auckland, New Zealand. Turner gets the job done in the second round by TKO. Culibao before that does start his pro career though, undefeated undefeated. He starts off with a record of 8-0 with wins in various promotions. Super fight being the most notable over there in New South Wales in Australia. Culibao, of course, training out of Sydney. Yeah, again, coming to this fight with a record of 8 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. You saw in the Charles Air Jordan fight, he can trade with a very good striker, Charles Air Jordan. I'm pretty high on Jordan, picking up that win over Marcelo Rojo in his last fight. Did Jordan, and Culibao did stand there for 3 rounds, and he did trade with him. Culibao is always looking for the finish on the feet. That's where most of his fights will be contested. It's going to be stand-up game for Culibao. Now, for Yilan, though, his ground game is pretty solid as well. Most recently, he did pick up an arm triangle choke finish in August of 2020, given it was against a fighter who was 10-11, and then most recently his last fight, it's a rear naked choke finish against Tanzao Wang, a fighter who's currently 3-5. But still, we have seen that Yilan is able to get the submission. I'm not saying that Josh Culibao is bad at all on the ground, but that could be a place where Yilan could definitely take advantage of. Culibao, though, tremendous striker. Yilan, from what I've seen, he's a good striker as well. So this should make for a very fun fight. Pretty low here on the card. I would look out for it. And if I'm making a prediction here on this one, though, I'm taking Yilan as an underdog pick on this one. I really like this pick right here. Hey, Culibao's solid, but for Yilan, again, the experience for a guy who's only been fighting professionally since 2016 is huge. The guy fights all the damn time, and he's finally getting a 6-month layoff. For him is the longest, I think, of his entire career, but I think that's going to help him in this one. He's not taking fights back-to-back and back-to-back months and taking on good talent where he's potentially risking getting KO'd. I don't think he's going to get knocked out in this one. I think for Yilan, if he has to go if he does have to take this fight to the ground, I think he can do that as well. So I like multiple paths to victory for Yilan in this one, be it on the feet using his kickboxing or having to drag this fight on the mat and finishing down there. So I'm going to take Yilan here with the big upset pick. Not well known is Yilan, but I'm going to take him to get the job done in this one. I think he wins this fight by stoppage. I'm not going to pick submission or KO just because I think there's multiple different ways he could get it done, but I think he does win this one within the distance. Now we've got a fight here at flyweight between Bruno Silva and Victor Rodriguez. Going to start first with Bruno Silva. So coming off that last win over JP Buys, I'll be honest with you, I picked JP Buys to get the win in that one, but Silva did surprise me, and he did look very good in that fight. Brunson Holland in March of 2020, he looked good in that fight. I've seen Bruno Silva, and in that fight, he gets rocked by JP Buys in the first round. He comes back, you think that he might be out of it, and then he takes control basically at the halfway point in the first round, just dominates JP Buys from there on out, and gets the job done by TKO in the second round. And that was make or break for Bruno Silva. It really was, because originally, he started his UFC career by losing to Tafa by arm triangle choke at UFC 243. That fight, though, did get overturned, but still, he lost that fight. Then he loses to David Dvorak. Then he loses to Tagir Ulanbekov. And hey, you're technically 0-2-1, but you're really 0-3 in the UFC. You need to pick up a win against the guy coming out of the Contender Series. A lot of people were high on JP Buys going into that fight, and Bruno Silva really just stopped the hype. He got the Performance of the Night bonus as well on that card, and now he is technically 1-2 in the promotion. Before that, for Bruno Silva, though, before the UFC run, did fight in various promotions in Arizona and in Brazil. Most notably, he did have a fight with Casey Kenny over at LFA 11. It was a split draw fight in May of 2017, but that is a notable fight for Silva. I'm coming to this fight, though, with the record of 11 wins, 5 losses, 2 draws, and 1 no contest. Of course, that no contest coming from the Tafa fight at UFC 243. Silva's pretty good on the ground. He's pretty good on the feet as well. Again, that fight against JP Buys was the best fight that Bruno Silva could have possibly had. I was really impressed by that performance from him, and again, I'm really liking what we saw out of that last fight with him, and now he welcomes a guy in Victor Rodriguez down to 125. Let's see what happens, but that's Bruno Silva. Now, Victor Rodriguez's first fight in the UFC was not great. It was a loss to Adrian Yanez over on Halloween, but Adrian Yanez, man, that guy has been running through the division so far. Currently in the UFC, 2-0. If you count the Contender, 3-0 with 3 knockouts. Adrian Yanez, that man is going to be a damn superstar. But Victor Rodriguez comes in, he gets caught with the head kick, and there was a reason he was a plus 420 underdog going into that fight. So yeah, Rodriguez, I believe I probably mentioned this going into the Yanez fight. Okay, Victor Rodriguez fought nobody before the UFC, and I know his last win coming into the UFC before that fight against Yanez was a win for the Alaska FC Bantamweight Championship. He won by TKO in the second round against a fighter who's 8-1, so a good win there. But if you look at all the rest of his fights, and this is what you get at guys coming from AFC, a lot of these guys are fighting just terrible opponents. and it'd be AFC, Alaska AFC, or just other promotions in Alaska that Victor Rodriguez was fighting for. I mean, he was fighting in blood, sweat, and beers over there in Alaska, and metal and mayhem. Those are the promotions he was fighting. Or another one, solid as a rock. Okay, but I'm just gonna read off the records of the guys Victor Rodriguez was fighting. Other than that last fight in Alaska FC for the championship, he's fighting a guy who's 2-1. Before that, 1-1, 0-3, loses to an 8-5 guy, loses to a 2-0 fighter, and then his first 3 fights were against all fighters making their professional debut. It's just tough to gauge how good Victor Rodriguez really is, and all I've seen out of him is those 2 fights, that one loss in Alaska, or that one win in Alaska FC for the Bantamweight Championship, and then that win over Adrian Yanez at 135 as well. And now I haven't seen Victor Rodriguez ever fight at 125. I don't believe he's ever done it. He used to fight 145 back in Alaska FC as well. Hell, in 2011 he was still fighting in at featherweight as well. So this is Victor Rodriguez's first time going down to 25. I just don't know what guy we're gonna get here. And I think the pretty safe pick here is to take Bruno Silva. And I'm gonna say Bruno Silva picks up yet another finish in the UFC. I think he gets back-to-back finishes here. I think he stops Victor Rodriguez in the first round. I think he gets the job done by TKO. If he has to result to his grappling, he can probably do that as well. But I think Bruno Silva is gonna pick up a TKO win in this fight. Next up, we've got 2 veterans going at it. It's gonna be Court McGee, the former Ultimate Fighter winner, and Claudio Silva. I'm gonna start first here with Court McGee, the season 11 Ultimate Fighter winner. Yeah, Court McGee currently on that 3-fight losing streak, and it's against good fighters. It is though. Diego Lima, split decision loss. All right, he loses to Sean Brady by unanimous decision. That fight really wasn't competitive, and he loses to Carlos Condit by unanimous decision. That fight really wasn't competitive as well. I mean, yeah, it's been tough for Court McGee. He's only won 1 fight out of his last 6. It was a win over Alex Garcia over on Vulcan versus Smith in New Brunswick, Canada. And then before that, loses to Sean Strickland, who, hey, top 10 fighter in Sean Strickland, bad take on Uriah Hall. Pretty pumped up for that fight, if I'm being honest. And again, before that, lose to Ben Saunders. It's been tough for Court McGee. It really has. Currently coming to this fight with a record of 19 wins and 10 losses. He's been just so up and down since winning the Ultimate Fighter. He wins the Ultimate Fighter, picks up a couple wins, loses to Costa Philippou, or as Michael Bisping once said, Costa Philippou, and then he loses to Nick Ring. Then he beats Josh Neer. He beats Robert Whittaker by split decision, which is something I'm always going to mention when I talk about Court McGee. Yeah, he beat Robert Whittaker on Carlos Condit versus Martin Kampmann, number 2 in Indianapolis, Indiana, and then he loses to Ryan LaFleur in his next fight. And then he beats Marcio Alexandre Jr., and then he loses to Ponzinibbio, beats Dominic Steele, and then that's when he goes on a stretch where he only wins 1 fight out of his next 6. Okay. Court McGee versus Claudio Silva, this stylistically this is hell for Court McGee. It is. Because how is Court McGee usually going to win his fights? All right, he's going to take his opponent down, he's going to try to drag them into deep waters, and he's going to try to overwhelm them on the ground. Okay, Claudio Silva kind of wants to be on his back. He's got a black belt in BJJ. He's a really good black belt in BJJ. He's not the Thiago Santos version of a black belt. And again, I'm sorry, Thiago Santos, but there are levels to the BJJ game. And Claudio Silva's pretty much at the top of that. He really is. This is a tough matchup for Court McGee. I'm going to start now talking about Claudio Silva. There's really not much to talk about because I think I kind of gave away my prediction. But Claudio Silva loses his first fight in 13 years, or yeah, 14 years. In his last fight against James Krause. Hey, James Krause, good fighter, great coach. Loses on the Ortega Korean Zombie card. No shame in that. He comes into the UFC though. Before that, was on a big winning streak. Wins over Brad Scott. Leon Edwards by split decision on the Shogun St. Preux card. Beats Nordine Taleb by rear naked choke. Submits Danny Roberts. Submits Cole Williams. And then of course he does lose to James Krause. Of course he had that 4-year hiatus mixed in there between the Leon Edwards and Nordine Taleb fights. But yeah, Claudio Silva, he's 14-2. He's got 2 wins by KO, 3 wins by decision, the 9 by submission. I just don't see how Court McGee wins this fight. Do I think he'll get finished? I mean, Court McGee's only been finished once in his entire career, and it was to Ponzinibbio, and you saw in that Carlos Condit fight, oh my goodness, Court McGee took a beating in that one. Now, it's a different game because Claudio Silva could potentially submit him off his back. Court McGee's submission defense is pretty solid, but again, this is how I present this fight to you. Okay, Court McGee usually is always going to try to take his opponent down. Claudio Silva is fine with that. He's going to work back positioning. He's going to try to sweep Court McGee and take top positioning. I don't see how Court McGee wins this fight. It's unfortunate because I do like Court McGee, but I just don't see how he wins this one. Claudio Silva is going to win this fight. Do I think he wins it by submission? Maybe. I think he gets the job done by decision as just the safe pick right here. I could definitely see it happening by stoppage, but I'm going to go with Claudio Silva to pick up the win by decision. So why this fight is on the undercard, and we've got Tafa and Vanderaa in the third to last fight of the card, I don't know, but here we go. We got Chris Barnett and Ben Rothwell. Chris Barnett making his UFC debut. He's coming off that win on UAE Warriors in September of 2020. Got the job done by KO in the first round, 58 seconds into that fight. And before that, he beats Rashawn Jackson in island fights. He beats Gun Ho Shim by KO on Road FC as well. Picks up win over Robert Neal. Hey, Chris Barnett has been pretty solid in his last couple of fights. He did lose to Yoel Romero in a grappling fight, or match, I guess you want to call it, 2019, but that's besides the point. That is not MMA, of course. Hey, yeah, but he is getting his UFC debut in this one on very short notice because Ben Rothwell was supposed to fight like a million different fighters. I'm going to go over that more when I'm going to talk about Ben Rothwell, but he was supposed to fight everyone, really. And Chris Barnett is currently 21-6, a pretty solid opponent, but you're not going to see Chris Barnett try to take down Ben Rothwell. This is going to be a stand-up fight, and it's going to be who can land the most dangerous punch early on in this fight. I think this fight will probably end in a knockout. It probably will. Someone is going to go down in this one. Okay, usually you say that, okay, heavyweight fights, first round knockout or a decision. Okay, it does kind of feel like this is the case for this one, but I truly do believe this is going to be a knockout in the first round. That's why I'm kind of surprised in the positioning of this fight on the card. That's why I really didn't know about having this fight this early, and I don't know why Tafa and Vanderaa is that high on the card. Whatever, that's besides the point. This fight will most likely end in a finish, and this is going to really probably result in a performance of the night bonus as well. So I'm excited for this one. We have seen Chris Barnett. He has knockout power. He's supposed to fight in that what was it, the XMMA event on the James Vick card where he lost to Andre Fiallo, but still, he was supposed to fight on that card. He got pulled from that fight card, but Chris Barnett, again, a good fighter. He's only got stoppages by TKO and KO on his record. He's got 16 wins by KO, 0 by submission, and 5 by decision. You know this one's going to be a banger, most likely. So that's Chris Barnett. Let's talk about his opponent here in Big Ben Rothwell. So Rothwell, yeah, he was supposed to fight Felipe Lins, and that fight was like scheduled, I believe, either 2 times or 3 times. That fight never ended up happening. So Ben Rothwell doesn't get Felipe Lins. Then they schedule him against, they schedule him against Felipe Lins 3 damn times. He gets canceled every single damn time. Then they book him against Oscar Morozov. I probably butchered the hell out of that name. That dude looked like a freak of nature. Like, I'm not like saying he was on the juice or anything, but holy crap, that dude, go look him up. Out of the Ukraine, that guy was, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That was going to be an interesting fight. That dude is jacked, but Ben Rothwell's not fighting him anymore. They've settled on Chris Barnett. Now, Ben Rothwell coming to this fight with a record of 38 wins, 13 losses, and of course, no draws. It feels like a step down in competition for Ben Rothwell, because if you look at the guys Ben Rothwell's been fighting since really he's made his UFC debut, nothing against Chris Barnett, but let's just list off these guys. Marcin Tybura, okay, top 15 fighter. Ovince St. Preux fought for a light heavyweight championship. Stefan Struve, okay, maybe the one exception in this entire list, but forget that. Andrei Arlovski, former champion. Blagoy Ivanov, former World Series of Fighting champion. Junior Dos Santos, former world champion. Josh Barnett, former world champion. Matt Mitrione, former Bellator, contender, kind of number 1 contender. Alistair Overeem, perennial title challenger, of course. Brandon Vera, former 1 championship title holder, just lost that title to Arjun Singh Bhullar, just recently won championship, but still, hey, Arjun Singh Bhullar wants to go to WWE or 1 championship. He's reached the pinnacle of MMA. Was that a shout at MJF in AEW? Maybe, but I don't know. We're gonna see him and Bhullar and in AEW. I don't know. That's a story for another day. But back to Ben Rothwell. Yeah, beats Brandon Vera. Gabriel Gonzaga. Hey, he knocked out Crow Cop, so there's that. Brendan Schwab. It's Brendan Schwab. Mark Hunt, just top 5 fighter all the damn time. Dude's been tremendous throughout his entire career. And also we got Cain Velasquez, former world champion as well. And then Andrei Arlovski, former world champion. My point being, Ben Rothwell's only fought the best of the best ever since he arrived in the UFC. And Chris Barnett's making his UFC debut against the guy in Ben Rothwell who is very hard to put away. Like, it is tough to put away Ben Rothwell. He's only been finished once in the UFC by KO, and it's to Cain Velasquez in his promotional debut. And that's usually how Chris Barnett's going to win a fight. It's going to be by KO. And now, also something to note about Chris Barnett. His last fight was at super heavyweight, 300 pounds. Now, he did not weigh 300 pounds. I believe he weighed about 270 something, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the exact number on here, but from my memory alone, I believe it was around 270. I don't think he wasn't close to the 300 mark, but still, he was fighting at super heavyweight in his last fight. He doesn't usually fight super heavyweight though, but that was just that last fight. But still, fought at the 300-pound weight class. We've seen guys though outside the UFC come in after fighting at 300. You saw Alexander Romanov, I believe, was weighing in at like a 285, comes in the UFC. Hey, he's still undefeated, beat Juan Espino. But back to Ben Rothwell though. It's just going to be tough for Chris Barnett to put away Ben Rothwell because it's so hard to put away Ben Rothwell. You look at the Ben Rothwell Andre Arlovski fight. A lot of people crap on that fight because, I don't know, a lot of people just didn't like it. I thought it was a pretty solid fight because you saw Andre Arlovski throw everything at Ben Rothwell in that fight, and Ben Rothwell kept moving forward. And yeah, he kept getting tagged. He kept getting just dominated on the feet, but still, that just showed you how good Ben Rothwell really is, I guess, and how good his chin really is. And in the Open St. Preux fight as well, hey, OSP did knock down Ben Rothwell with in the last 2 seconds of that fight, but other than that one knockdown, that was a pretty good performance by Ben Rothwell. And the same thing in the Marcin Tybura fight. Tybura landed some bombs on Ben Rothwell, and Rothwell stayed on his feet. With all of that, I don't think Chris Barnett's going to be able to finish Ben Rothwell, and that's the only path to victory that you could potentially see Chris Barnett winning in. It's going to be by putting away Ben Rothwell in the first round, because taking this fight on short notice, I don't think he's going to be able to go 3 rounds with Rothwell. And I know how I just talked about, I guarantee a finish. I just put him on that long-ass spiel about how we're going to see a first-round finish. Okay, I don't think we're going to get a first-round finish. I think Ben Rothwell wins this fight by decision, okay? I think Chris Barnett might steal the first round in this one. I think Rothwell going into the second and third, I think his cardio is going to be a little bit better than Chris Barnett. I know I'm talking about Ben Rothwell out-cardioing guys, which I didn't think I was ever going to get to that discussion here talking about UFC on the channel, but I think Ben Rothwell, and hear me out here, Ben Rothwell is going to out-cardio Chris Barnett in this one, and he's going to outwork him to a 2-1 decision victory, 29-28 after winning rounds 2 and 3. So score another victory for Big Ben Rothwell. So now we've got 2 fights I've actually already talked about. It's Ricardo Ramos and Bill Algeo is the first one, and the second one's Jack Hermansson, Edmund Shahbazyan. The Ricardo Ramos Bill Algeo fight was, I believe, it was earlier on in the year. That was on it was on a fight night card. It was removed because of COVID protocols. That was on Whitaker and Gastelum. I mean, my prediction really doesn't change at all for that fight. It really doesn't. And the Jack Hermansson Edmund Shahbazyan fight, that fight was supposed to happen in Houston last week, so 1 week's not going to make a difference on that one. Predictions stayed exactly the same, so we're going to roll those 2 fight predictions, and I'll see you guys for David Dvorak and Ralian Paiva. Now we've got Bill Algeo and Ricardo Ramos. Algeo is coming into this fight with a win over Spike Carlyle in his last fight. It was a good win for Algeo. I don't know why Carlyle got released by the UFC. Now in LFA, I'm glad he won his main event over there in that promotion. But yeah, Carlyle does lose that fight to Bill Algeo, and it's a pretty good one for Bill Algeo, pretty dominant in that one over Carlyle, but it's always a fun fight, any fight with Spike Carlyle, and Algeo won that one, and he won that fight in a fight where Spike Carlyle wants to be in, trading shots in the feet. Algeo did a pretty good job in that one. And then before that, he made his UFC debut against Ricardo Lamas. That was his first fight in the UFC, and yeah, they gave him Ricardo Lamas. I do believe Lamas was supposed to fight, I think it was Ryan Hall, if I'm not mistaken. And was it Bektic or Hall? It was one of those fighters. But yeah, Algeo lost to Lamas in that fight. And before that, he did fight in CFFC, and he did fight in the Contender Series as well. Lost to Brendan Loughlin. Loughlin, obviously a fighter now in PFL. Yeah, so Algeo guys shot there, lost, won a couple fights. Actually, only won 1 fight in CFFC, and then lost to Ricardo Lamas. Yeah, Algeo coming to this fight with a record of 14-5. Algeo, good all-around fighter. I think his ground game is probably his best. With that in the stand-up game, I think Algeo's ground game is better than his stand-up game, but his stand-up game is pretty solid as well. We saw him trade with Spike Carlyle at points to their fight, and he did do pretty well in some of those exchanges. The thing is, Ricardo Ramos's ground game is, I mean, you can't get that much better than Ricardo Ramos's ground game. So Algeo in this fight is probably gonna have to win this one on the feet. But Ricardo Ramos, we have seen in the past, has been solid on the feet. And yeah, we're really looking at the Ayman Zahabi fight where spinning elbow, I mean, that's my move in UFC 4, just spam the spinning elbows. Well, Ricardo Ramos landed it right on the dot, right on the button, and put down Ayman Zahabi, aka Ariel Helwani. But other than that, though, Ramos has been finished on the feet a couple times in the UFC. Said Nurmagomedov, alright, Said Nurmagomedov, very good fighter, very just a weird fighter on the feet to beat. Ramos got TKO'd in that fight with a spinning back kick, and then most recently, fighting against Leron Murphy, did lose that one by TKO on Cater and Ige in Abu Dhabi. I picked Ricardo Ramos to win that one. Obviously did not go our way, but I think Ramos on the feet though in this one, he has a chance against Algeo, but I'm gonna give the slight advantage to Algeo. On the ground, I'm giving it to Ricardo Ramos. I mean, definitely. Ramos' ground game, very good. Black belt in BJJ, and yes, it does feel like everyone's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now, but Ramos is a real black belt. I know there are levels to that game in Jiu-Jitsu, but Ramos on the ground will have the advantage against Algeo. It's just a matter of, can he get that fight to the ground against Algeo? Because it's gonna be tough for Ricardo Ramos. And yeah, he can stand with them, and he can strike with them. It just depends, man. I'm going to go with Ricardo Ramos in this one ever so slightly, though. Because I do see a path to victory for Bill Algeo. I do. I mean, it's just keep the fight standing, use your reach in this one, and just out-volume Ricardo Ramos. And avoid the big power shot that Ramos will occasionally throw. But I think Ramos is going to be able to just eventually get to this fight, just get this fight in the ground. I don't know if he's going to be able to get a finish on Algeo, because Algeo is a very tough guy to finish on the ground, and we saw Brandon Laflahan put everything on him, given that fight was primarily a striking fight, and then at the end, Laflahan shot him for a takedown, didn't get the contract from Dana, and Algeo ended up in the UFC, and Laflahan's now in PFL, but that's a story for another day. Yeah, so Algeo, but that all being said, Algeo, very tough fighter to finish. I don't think Ramos will get a finish necessarily in this one. I think he'll win this one by decision, though, and it should be a good fight. Now we've got Edmund Shahbazyan and Jack Hermansson. How this fight was originally supposed to be on the ESPN prelims, I do not know, but this is a banger of a fight. It is a good fight. I'm going to start first with Edmund Shahbazyan. Last fight against Derek Brunson. Now, he was a pretty heavy favorite to win that one. He did not get the job done. Derek Brunson dominated him in that fight. Probably should have the finish in the second round. Herb Dean was like, yeah, Shahbazyan, you can get up. Let's go to the third round. And yeah, that fight ended like very quickly. I mean, again, good stoppage kind of by Herb Dean. Probably should have been stopped in the second round, but Herb Dean knew in the third round. All right, one big punch that Shahbazyan does take here. This fight's over. Brunson hits him with one right. It's over. Saved Shahbazyan from taking a lot more damage, even though, again, he probably shouldn't have made it out the corner, but head movement, let's move on. Shahbazyan, before the Brunson fight, though, does pick up a win over Brad Tavares. He head kicks him on UFC 244. Before that, beats Jack Marshman by rear naked choke, and then before that, TKO's Charles Bird, and in his UFC debut, beats Darren Stewart by split decision. Shahbazyan is coming into this fight with a record of 11-1, but, like, I like Shahbazyan. I think he's an up-and-coming fighter. I think he's going to be very good. I don't know why they're giving him Jack Hermansson after losing to Derek Brunson. Are we forgetting how good Jack Hermansson really is, though? I know both these guys coming off of main event spots. Now, one of them was a 3-round fight. The Shahbazyan-Brunson fight was only scheduled for 3. Hermansson versus Vettori was a 5-round fight. But, I mean, Shahbazyan, again, he's still good, but I just don't like the matchup for Shahbazyan here, because think about it. How does he really beat Jack Hermansson? All right, well, he's probably going to have to knock him out in the first round. That's really the only way I see Shahbazyan winning this fight. Like, Hermansson is a good striker. Don't forget how good of a striker Hermansson is. And yeah, like, I know he's not, okay, compared to guys such as Jared Cannonier and Marvin Vettori, okay, he's not great compared to those guys, but compared to Edmund Shahbazyan, I'm not sold on Shahbazyan at all, dude. I am not sold on him just yet, and I was kind of before the Brunson fight, but that was a big, okay, Brunson is kind of a gatekeeper as well. I don't think he's ever going to challenge for a title, if I'm being honest with ourselves here, but like, Hermansson and Shahbazyan here. Hermansson, if this fight stays on the feet, I do like Hermansson still to beat Edmund Shahbazyan, and I know Shahbazyan did knock out Brad Tavares, but it's Brad Tavares, who's a solid fighter, but not on the level of Jack Hermansson. Hermansson's a pretty good chin as well. And yeah, I think Jack Hermansson's going to win this fight. I think I gave that away pretty early in this one, though. But, like, Hermansson's striking is... Now, if these two were just to kickbox for the entire fight, would Shahbazyan win? Maybe. But there's always the threat of the takedown. And you saw Derek Brunson take down Edmund Shahbazyan, and you did see Derek Brunson beat Shahbazyan on the feet as well. It's going to be the same case for Jack Hermansson. I don't know why this fight was scheduled. I just don't see why it was. And is this fight somewhat even on the odds? This is a levels fight. Edmund Shahbazyan's young. He's 23 years old. Why are you throwing him in back-to-back fights with Derek Brunson and Jack Hermansson? I do not know. Hermansson's got the advantage on the feet, I think very slightly. Because of the throw of the takedown, it sets up Jack Hermansson's striking, and of course Hermansson's got the advantage on the ground. I think this is going to be a dominant performance for Jack Hermansson. I mean, call this a bold pick, but I think after 3 rounds, if this fight does go 3 rounds, you're going to be thinking to yourself, why the hell was this fight scheduled? Because I think Jack Hermansson is going to dominate Edmund Shahbazyan in this fight. Jack Hermansson wins by late 3rd round TKO, ground and pound on the ground. Hermansson, early in this fight, I think will have some success on the feet, eventually take it to the ground, work his ground game against Shahbazyan, and basically just follow the game plan that Derek Brunson had against Shahbazyan. It worked really well. We haven't seen Shahbazyan in that much trouble in his entire career. Well, hell, he lost the fight for the first time in his career. I just don't like the matchmaking at all for Shahbazyan, because if you feel like Shahbazyan should be fighting a guy outside of the top 15 to work his way back up. Jack Hermansson is a top 10 fighter who, if he beat Marvin Vettori, you might be looking at Hermansson versus Adesanya next month. I like Hermansson to win this one. I really think so. I think you're going to see takedowns early in this one. I think you're going to see some success for Hermansson as well in the feet in the first round. Second round, going to be takedowns, dominance on the ground. Yeah, Jack Hermansson wins this fight, and he wins it by third round TKO on the ground. Now we've got a flyweight bout between David the Undertaker Dvorak and Halian Paiva. We will start first here with Halian Paiva. His last fight was a win over Ismagulov on UFC 251. Now, Paiva did miss weight in that fight. He did miss by 3 pounds in that one. He weighed in at 129, but he still did beat Ismagulov in that fight. And then before that, he beat Bark De La Rosa by KO on UFC Fight Night. Anderson Blakovic in Rio Rancho. And then before that, lost to Bontarin by TKO. Bontarin just beat Matt Schnell, even though he missed weight in that one, but he still won at bantamweight, even though he's a flyweight. Weird scenario there on the pay-per-view portion of last night's card, or Saturday's card in Houston. But Paiva loses to Bontarin over in Uruguay for Shevchenko Carmouche 2, and then before that, his UFC debut is a loss to Kai France by split decision, UFC 234. That would be Anderson the Spider Silva taking on Israel Adesanya. And then Paiva got his way into the UFC by winning on the Contender Series. He won by split decision over Alan Namasmento by split decision in August of 2018. Halian Paiva, though, currently 2-2 in the promotion against some pretty solid fighters, and now when he's fought the top 15 names, the top 10 names in the weight class in Kai France and in Bontarin, he has lost. And when he's fought the guys who are like in the top 20, I would say, in Ismagulov and Mark De La Rosa, he has found some success. He's now going to get another one of these top 10 guys in David Dvorak. So we're going to see one more time, can Halian Paiva really just hang with these top 10 guys, or is he going to be one of these middle of the pack, top 20, maybe top 15 guys? So Paiva's coming into this fight with a record of 20 wins and 3 losses. Pretty solid fighter all around on the feet and on the ground as well. He can get the job done really anywhere you want him to get it done. Of course, the Mark De La Rosa fight is the fight that does stand out with the KO finish in the second round in New Mexico. Yeah, that's Halian Paiva, though, coming into this fight with a record of 20 wins and 3 losses. Let's talk about his opponent here in David the Undertaker Dvorak. And I'm pretty high on David Dvorak. If you go back to my prediction video with him and Jordan Espinoza, I believe that was in the summer. It's been a while since Dvorak. Actually, that was the fall. Okay, that was in September. It felt like that was a long time ago, but that was on Covington Woodley in September. I was pretty high on David Dvorak back then, and I'm still pretty high on him. He beat Jordan Espinoza pretty handily in that fight, and before that, he beat Bruno Silva in his UFC debut. So he is 2-0 currently in the promotion. He has not lost a fight since 2012, where he lost on Gladiator Championship fighting over in the Czech Republic. It has been a while for David Dvorak since he's actually lost a fight, and the man can get finishes on the feet. He can get him on the ground. He's just an all-around very good fighter. And David Dvorak, man, don't look now, but if Dvorak can pick up a couple wins here, and I do feel like Halian Paiva is one of these guys where you should be able to, just beat and move on. David Dvorak, man, you're looking at a guy who potentially could be looking at the top 5 very soon. I'm just saying, this guy could be looking at challenging for a title maybe this time next year. That's how high I really am on David Dvorak, and if you couldn't tell, I'm picking David Dvorak to get the win in this one. Now, if you can beat Jordan Espinoza, I think you definitely have all the skills necessary to beat Halian Paiva as well. You do have to worry for Halian Paiva's ground game because it is pretty damn solid, and for his KO power on the feet, but all around, David Dvorak's just the better fighter. I think he's going to be able to outpoint Halian Paiva in this one, whether it be on the ground or on the feet. I think Dvorak's just all around the more well-balanced fighter. I think Dvorak is going to pick up the win by decision, improving to a record of 20-3, and potentially now going into maybe the top 8 of the weight class. Hell, if Joseph Benavidez is looking for one more fight, give Dvorak Benavidez on his way out. Let's see if Dvorak can really hang with the top 5 guys of the weight class. So now we've got the former title challenger in Felicia Spencer taking on Norma Dumont. And okay, I know this is weird to say, but if Norma Dumont wins, she's probably fighting for a title next, guys. That's 145 right now. We're saving it for Kayla Harrison, it feels like. But if Norma Dumont beats Felicia Spencer, there's no one else at 145, and if they want Nunes to go back up at 145, in all honesty, man, Nunes is probably beating Juliana Pena. I mean, most likely, right? So if Nunes beats Pena and she's waiting for another fighter at 135, say we do Durandamy and home again to see who gets the next shot at Nunes. If we're waiting for that to all settle down at 135, Nunes might want to go back up to 145 on short notice, and Norma Dumont with the win here could potentially be her next opponent. I never thought I'd be saying those words. Yeah, Norma Dumont's a fight away from a championship fight, but it really does feel that way. Now, that's how thin 145 really is, and say what you want, the UFC, are they cutting this division? Are they not? Is this the last fight of the 145-pound weight class for the females? Megan Anderson is saying that it is. I tend to believe it's not going to be. I think they are going to keep this division around for the sole purpose you always want to book Amanda Nunes as the double champion. Now, even if there aren't any fighters at 145, you can still book her as the double champ, and you have to keep the title around. So as long as you have a weight class, you can always say Nunes is the double champion, that she is the world champion of two different weight classes, even though we all know Bellator's 145 weight class is a lot better than the UFC's, but that's besides the point. And hey, PFL's got the best 155 women's division in the world as well, so there's that. But that's currently where we're at 145. Felicia Spencer coming off that world title fight against Amanda Nunes where she got dominated in, and Norma Dumont's coming back up to 145. So now we're going to talk about Norma Dumont. So this is going to be her second fight at 145. Her first fight at featherweight was a loss to Megan Anderson over Norfolk, Virginia, where she got KO'd with a cross in the first round of that fight. It's unfortunate for her. That was her UFC debut. Then she turns around in November of 2020, picks up a unanimous decision win over Ashley Evans-Smith. I think I got that one right. According to Tapology, I did. I forgot I even picked that fight, if I'm being honest with you. And now she's back against Felicia Spencer. She was supposed to fight Erin Blanchfield on UFC on ABC2 just last month. That fight got canceled though because it was Norma Dumont in this weight, I think it was. I don't know. She's going back up to 145 and she's taking on Felicia Spencer. Dumont's best path to victory usually is by submission, but she's taking on Felicia Spencer, who arguably is the best ground fighter at 145, with the exception of Amanda Nunes and with the exception of Chris Cyborg. So yeah, Norma Dumont, could she beat Felicia Spencer on the feet? Maybe. Spencer's not that great on the feet either, and that would just be a train wreck on the feet if we're being honest with ourselves. But that's Norma Dumont coming to this fight with a current record of 5 wins and 1 loss. Let's talk about her opponent here in the former title challenger and pay-per-view headliner in Felicia Spencer. So I said earlier how there's no one else at 145 except for probably these two. I did forget about Danielle Wolf. They did sign her out the Contender Series, and that was supposed to be Felicia Spencer's original opponent for this fight. Danielle Wolf, though, had to pull out due to an injury in May, earlier this month, of course. So that's not happening. But Danielle Wolf is 1-0 in MMA, right? I mean, she's only had one pro fight. She's a former boxer, but she's had one fight. It was on the Contender Series. She won by unanimous decision in September of last year, and Felicia Spencer was going to destroy Danielle Wolf. She's going to take her down and submit her probably within 2 minutes, maybe even less. But Felicia Spencer is taking on Norma Dumont, and her last 4 fights in the UFC have been against pretty good opponents. I mean, Megan Anderson, she beats her by a rear naked choke. Megan Anderson just fought for world championship. She got submitted pretty easily, but she beats Megan Anderson in her UFC debut. She loses to Chris Cyborg in that fight where Joe Rogan was just amazed about how Felicia Spencer kept staying in that fight when Chris Cyborg was dominating that one. Wasn't really that close, but yeah, Spencer did stay in there. She cut Chris Cyborg with an elbow, so that was cool, but Cyborg won the fight. And then Spencer beats Zara Farron, so she wins that fight by KO on the ground in Norfolk, Virginia, on that same Benavidez and Figueiredo card where Norma Dumont lost to Megan Anderson. And then Spencer loses to Amanda Nunes, which we all saw that coming. Nunes could have finished that fight in the 5th round if she wanted to, but she was just, I guess she wanted to make her in-ring time longer. I don't know. I mean, she could have finished that fight in the 5th round. I don't really know what she was doing, but Spencer's now 2-2 in the UFC. Wins over Megan Anderson, Zara Farron, losses to Cyborg and Nunes. Given Cyborg and Nunes are the 2 best 145 pounders right now in the world, so there is that. Felicia Spencer got her way in the UFC by winning the Invicta Featherweight Championship. She beat Pam Sorensen for that one by rear naked choke. Good win over there over in Shawnee, Oklahoma. Okay, Felicia Spencer's probably gonna beat Norma Dumont. I think she will. it's just a matter of whose jiu-jitsu you think is better. Felicia Spencer is a natural 145 pounder. Norma Dumont is like stuck in between 135 and 145. She has trouble making 135, as you saw in her last fight. She can make it, and she just looks small at 145. Now, was it because I did go back and I did watch her fighting Megan Anderson? Yeah, Megan Anderson's 6'6", she's 6'1". I mean, everyone's gonna look small at 145 compared to Megan Anderson, so it's gonna be interesting to see Norma Dumont against another featherweight in Felicia Spencer, but Norma Dumont will have the height advantage. She is 5'7", Spencer is 5'6", so we are going to see Dumont at 45 against another fighter who is not 6 feet tall. So that'll be interesting, but I think Spencer will be able to get the job done on this one. I think her ground game is going to be too much for Dumont here. Do I think she submits Dumont? Probably not, because Norma Dumont's BJJ is really good, but I do think she probably will be able to get a finish later on in this fight. I'm going to go TKO finish here for Felicia Spencer, probably in the third round after she does win rounds 1 and 2. And yeah, Spencer picks up the win. We'll see what happens with the featherweight division. I personally think it will continue, but we will just have to wait and see. Now we've got a heavyweight fight between Jared Vanderaa and Justin the Bad Man, or just Bad Man, Tafa. We're going to start first with the mountain. It is Jared Vanderaa. His last fight was a loss to Sergey Spivak. That fight, I mean, that was a Chris Taglioni fight. Spivak had that fight won. Like, it was ridiculous. He had that fight won like maybe a minute into the second round. And then Vanderaa just ate 3 minutes of ground and pound. And Chris Taglioni, fight back, fight back. Come on, show me something. Fight back, I'm going to stop this fight. He did that for 3 minutes. And eventually Vanderaa got put away by Spivak. It was a ridiculous Chris Taglioni stoppage. Spivak got the job done. That fight really shouldn't have been scheduled. Let's be honest with ourselves. Vanderaa got his shot in the UFC, though, by beating Harry Hunsucker by TKO. On the Contender Series, Harry Hunsucker's in the UFC as well now, lost to Tai Tuivasa in about 30 seconds. So there's that as well. But Vanderaa, before that, beat Tony Lopez, fighter who's fought like a million times. I mean, he's 64-32, so there's that. Vanderaa did beat him by unanimous decision. He has been fighting professionally since 2015, currently holding a record of 11 wins and 5 losses. This fight against Justin Tafa will not hit the mat. This fight will be a stand-up fight, and it's going to be one of these heavyweight fights where I'm going to say it again. Probably a first-round knockout or a 3-round boring decision, but there's an exception because Justin Tafa actually is pretty fun to watch. His fight against Carlos Felipe was a very underrated fight on Calvin Kattar versus Max Holloway in Abu Dhabi. That fight would have won Fight of the Night if it wasn't for that masterpiece Max Holloway did put on, and Calvin Kattar as well in the main event. But that's a really underrated fight. Go watch that, actually. Justin Tafa versus Carlos Felipe on the 2021 opener card at Fight Island. But yeah, so Tafa's not a boring fighter at all. So I do think there's a possibility for a first-round knockout in this one, but it also could be a 3-round fight where Justin Tafa and Vanderaa do exchange shots, and maybe they do that boxing thing that Tafa and Felipe did, going forehead to forehead and just swinging and digging into the body, uppercuts. That was a fun exchange. Maybe we'll see that in this fight. I doubt it, though. But yeah, that's Vanderaa, 11-5. Let's talk about his opponent here in the Bad Man, Justin Tafa. And yeah, I've kind of already talked about that Tafa and Felipe fight. It was a fun fight. I thought Justin Tafa won that one. Carlos Felipe got the job done by split decision. You really could have gone either way, if we're being honest with ourselves. It was a close fight, though. I mean, you can't call it a robbery. It was just a close fight. Tafa's second fight in the UFC is a win over Juan Adams. I was in Juan Adams' hometown in Houston, Texas. Juan Adams gets knocked out in that one by Tafa, and hey, Juan Adams did pick up a win over at Fury FC. He beat Jeremy Hardy by TKO in his last fight in Houston, so good for him. That was just 3 days ago. Good for Juan Adams. I'm glad he won. But Justin Tafa knocks out Juan Adams at UFC 247 in Adams' hometown. Gets the job done 2 minutes in. That was on the main card. Weird fight, but Tafa wins. First fight in the UFC, it's against Yorgan De Castro. Now, that was in Justin Tafa's hometown over in Australia. He's got the crowd on his side. The fight against Yorgan De Castro does not, it doesn't go that long. It's only 2 minutes. Tafa does have Yorgan De Castro sort of hurt, and then he rushes in there, he swings wildly, and Yorgan De Castro just clips him real quick, puts out the lights, knocks out Justin Tafa, and now we have not seen that Yorgan De Castro ever since. Yeah, Yorgan De Castro, he just lost to Dan Ho, he's lost to Felipe, he lost to Hardy. Yeah, Castro got released just a couple weeks ago. Unfortunate, but De Castro got released, but what you're going to do. Justin Tafa, though, did get knocked out by Yorgan De Castro. We never saw Yorgan De Castro ever again in the UFC after that fight. Justin Tafa, though, here against Jared Vanderaa, I think he probably will win. I think Tafa's knockout power, he's got more knockout power than Jared Vanderaa. Now, could Vanderaa catch Tafa coming in like Tafa does do sometimes? He does leave his head exposed when he does throw a big overhand right. Yeah, that could happen, but I just don't see it happening. Tafa actually has since the Yorgan de Castro fight, he has been a little bit more measured in his fights. He saw in the Juan Adams fight, he waited for Juan Adams to come to him, then he countered him, and he put him down. The Carlos Felipe fight, yeah, both those guys really just didn't give a damn. They just kept throwing for 3 rounds, so that's the exception to that one. But we have seen a more relaxed Justin Tafa in the octagon, and I think that approach will signal a victory for him over Jared Vanderaa. I think he probably will get a TKO finish in the first round. Now we've got a potential title eliminator at women's strawweight. It is between Yan Xiaonan and Carla Esparza. We will start first with the former champion here in Carla Esparza. So, currently on a 4-fight winning streak, and these wins keep looking better and better. Vina Janji-Dobo is the first win on this winning streak. Unanimous decision win. What has Janji-Dobo done since then? Well, she beat Mallory Martin, then she beats Felice Harrigan. She has a pretty competitive fight with Mackenzie Dern. So good wins right there for Esparza, or good win over Vina Janji-Dobo for Esparza. Next, Esparza beats Alexa Grasso by majority decision. Now, say what you want about the decision. It was very close. I don't know about that call, but since then, Grasso has beat Jin Yeon Kim, and she looked tremendous in, that co-main event spot against Macy Barber on a UFC pay-per-view, by the way. But Alexa Grasso has looked good since the loss to Carla Esparza. Now, after that, Carla Esparza beats Michelle Waterson. Say what you want about the decision as well. I thought probably Carla Esparza lost that fight to Michelle Waterson, but it's okay. Since then, what has Waterson done? Now, she has gone 1-1, but she had a good performance over Angela Hill in the main event, and she lost to Marina Rodriguez in the main event. Okay, who did Esparza beat after Michelle Waterson? She beat Marina Rodriguez. What has Marina Rodriguez done since then? She has fought twice. She knocks out Amanda Ribas in the second round of their fight, and then she beats Michelle Waterson in a main event at flyweight, but still, she beats Michelle Waterson in the main event. Esparza's wins keep looking better and better. They really do, and if you want to look back to some of her other wins, Cynthia Calvillo, hey, top 7 contender at 125 as well. I mean, Esparza racks up so many damn good wins, and her losses are not bad losses as well. If you want to look at her UFC losses, it's the title fight to Joanna Jędrzejczyk where she gets just dominated. I mean, that fight was just disgusting. She loses to Randa Marcos by split decision in a fight that Esparza probably should have won on the cards, but it's okay. Claudia Gadelha split decision fight that definitely Esparza won, but she kind of got robbed in that one. And the only fight that she's been completely dominated in, other than the Joanna fight, was the Tatiana Suarez fight. That fight was a mismatch as well. UFC 228. Tatiana Suarez destroys Esparza in that one. Suarez takes away anything that Esparza wanted to do in that fight. Fish for a takedown, work in the clinch. No. Suarez did the exact same thing that Esparza was looking to do when she was setting up her game plan. And Suarez completely wiped out the offense of Carla Esparza going into that fight. It's a shame we have not seen Suarez since the fight after Esparza for her, of course, the Nina Askarov fight. We have not seen Tatiana Suarez since. I hope we get her back in the octagon very soon, because a Tatiana Suarez versus Mackenzie Dern fight would be pretty damn interesting right now as a title eliminator. But we'll have to see if we get that. I doubt it. But back to the Carla Esparza versus Yan Xiaonan fight. What I'm saying about Carla Esparza, her wins keep getting better and better, and her losses are good losses as well. I mean, again, you don't want to lose in MMA, but Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Tatiana Suarez, Claudia Gadelha, not bad losses at all. And the other one is Randa Marcos. Let's just forget about that fight. Let's forget that fight ever happened. All right. Esparza coming to this fight, though, with a record of 17 wins and 6 losses. You know how Carla Esparza is going to win a fight. She's going to clinch with you. She's going to work her knees, and she's going to look for a takedown, and that's simple. She's going to look to double leg you. She's going to try to take top positioning, and she's going to try to either work for a TKO finish or really just ride out control time and pick up a decision win. Because let's be honest, Carla Esparza does not pick up wins by finish. Her only finish win in the UFC was for the championship when she submitted Rose Namajunas in the 3rd round of the Ultimate Fighter finale show back in 2014. So that's the game plan for Esparza, though. Takedown here in Yan Xiaonan, really work on her for 3 rounds, and really just edge out a close decision. That's the same thing that happened in the Alexa Grasso fight, Michelle Waterson fight, Marina Rodriguez fight. Her last 3 fights were the same exact way. Esparza edged out a very close decision. You know how she won those fights? She won it via her wrestling and the late takedowns at the end of rounds. Carla Esparza is such a smart fighter. She knows what she has to do to win by points, and that's the biggest advantage she does have in this fight. So that's Carla Esparza. Let's talk about her opponent here in Yan Xiaonan. And for Yan Xiaonan, her last fight was a win over Claudia Gadelha. That fight was on Santos and Teixeira in November of last year. It was a good win for Yan Xiaonan, pretty dominant towards the end of that fight. Claudia Gadelha just ran out of gas going into the later rounds of that one. He got 29-28 on all cards for Yan Xiaonan in that one. Used her wrestling in that one, used her stand-up game pretty well. Overall, tremendous performance for her. Before that, she beats Karolina Kowalkiewicz by unanimous decision. Really just dominates Karolina, and I've talked about Karolina multiple times on the channel. It's just unfortunate to see where her career went really after the Jessica Andrade fight, but Yan Xiaonan picks up the win by unanimous decision. Before that, she beats Angela Hill by unanimous decision. She beats Siri Kondo by unanimous decision. She beats Viviana Pereira by unanimous decision. And then she also beats Kaylin Curran by unanimous decision as well. We have not seen Yan Xiaonan get a finish so far in the UFC. We did see it outside of the promotion, though, in China. A lot of wins by TKO. But it's really been point fighting for Yan Xiaonan so far. She has done a very good job of it too, of course, with those last 3 wins over some pretty good fighters in Angela Hill, in Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and in Claudia Gadelha. Yan Xiaonan, though, just a really good all-around fighter. BJJ is pretty good at wrestling, so actually pretty solid as well, and her stand-up game is very good. It's just, this fight is going to be close. It's going to be a close fight because it's really, every Carla Esparza fight will probably come down to a split decision. If we're being honest with ourselves, every Carla fight is going to be close. Yan Xiaonan is one of these fighters who is very technical on the feet, and she's very technical on the ground as well. She knows what to do in all situations, but the same thing goes with Carla Esparza. Now, in this fight, I'm gonna take Carla Esparza. Here is why: the experience. Carla Esparza knows how to win a close fight. I just said it. I mean, I've said it a million times. Okay, Alexa Grasso, close fight. How does Carla Esparza win? She wins by getting the takedowns late in rounds, and that's what looks good on the cards. Same thing in the Michelle Warrison fight. She wasn't pretty on the feet, but she got on the ground and she dominated on the ground. Same thing goes for the Marina Rodriguez fight. I think that's what she's going to do to Yan Xiaonan in this one. There's going to be points in this fight where you're going to look at this fight and it might be a mismatch on the feet. It really might. Yan Xiaonan will probably dominate at some points in this fight on the feet, but once it gets to the ground and once Carla Esparza makes this a dirty fight and she works this fight in the clinch, she throws her knees and she takes this fight to the ground, that's where Carla Esparza shines. And now, will she get a finish? Probably not, but the same thing goes for Yan Xiaonan. She's probably not getting a finish either. This one, I mean, like, I don't know what the odds are if this fight go to the distance, but probably, I mean, I would hammer that. I mean, this fight's going the distance, right? And I think in a fight where you're judging this fight on a 10-point must system, Carla Esparza finds a way to steal rounds, and she's gonna get the job done by, again, wait for it, split decision again. I think that's how she gets the job done. It's the Carla Esparza way, and she's gonna do it again. Esparza's gonna use her wrestling, she's gonna use her clinch game, she's gonna drag this one out. It's gonna be a close fight, it's gonna be a grueling fight. She's gonna drag Yan Xiaonan into deep waters, and she's gonna win this fight by split decision. And I don't know where you go next with Carla. Most likely a date with Mackenzie Dern could be next. Hell, maybe the rematch with Joanna. I don't know, but Esparza is potential. I think with the win here, she's either next up for the title or she's a fight away from the title. You might see, hey, if Esparza wins here, there's a good chance she fights for the title next because Rose Namajunas is the champion. Rose wants to get that fight back. That was the first ever title fight at 115. You couldn't see that fight happen again. But for now, I'm going with Cookie Monster Carla Esparza to get the win by split decision. It is time for the main event of the evening. We have got Rob Font taking on Cody No Love Garbrandt. What a fight we have got here at 135 pounds. The former champion returns one more time, and Cody Garbrandt, and Rob Font is looking to send his way towards the top of this 135-pound weight class off of 3 straight wins that keep looking better and better. We will start first, though, with the former champion in Cody No Love Garbrandt. Okay. The 3-fight losing streak was not good. Everyone knows it. The 2 TJ Dillashaw fights, not the best of fights for Cody Garbrandt, right? Then you lose to Pedro Munoz in a fight that he just fought horribly. I don't think I really need to spell that one out for you. I mean, I'm sure that fight is on the internet somewhere. I mean, I'll just go to the end sequence of that one. Garbrandt kind of has Munoz hurt, and then he just decides, all right, I'm gonna keep throwing my right hand, and I'm gonna keep exchanging it with Pedro Munoz until one of us goes down. It was not a smart fight by Cody Garbrandt, because definitely if he just settled in there and he was patient, he probably would have got Pedro Munoz out of there. But instead, they traded right hands until the fight was over, and eventually Munoz caught Garbrandt before Garbrandt caught Munoz, and that's how Pedro Munoz won that fight. Now, the Rafael Assunção fight. I was very close on picking either guy on that fight. I'll keep it real. I picked Rafael Assunção to get the job done in that one just because I thought, hey, Cody's on a 3-fight losing streak. I think Assunção is going to be able to take advantage of this losing streak of Garbrandt, and maybe we'll see Assunção get the job done. No, we did not see that happen because Cody Garbrandt showed how good he truly is, and ever since he moved gyms, he's left. I mean, he's still kind of training at Team Alpha Male, but he's over with Mark Henry now over in New Jersey, and he has been tremendous since that move. Of course, it's only been one fight. It's only been, 9 minutes of in-ring action, but damn, he looked good in that fight against Assunção. He really did. Patient Cody Garbrandt is a Garbrandt we have not seen yet, and look what happened in the Assunção fight. He sits back at the end of the second round, waits for Assunção to throw just a labored punch. Assunção kind of sits back. Garbrandt ducks one from Assunção. Big overhand right, puts him down with 1 second left in the fight, or in the second round. Holy crap, go watch that fight. The UFC just posted it for free on their YouTube channel. Tremendous win for Garbrandt, and it showed you how good that guy really is and how good of a striker he can really be. Another fight. You go back to the Dominic Cruz, Cody Garbrandt fight. No one has done that to Dominic Cruz to this date. And I know Henry Cejudo knocked out Dominic Cruz, but it was not the same. Cody Garbrandt put on a clinic against Dominic Cruz, the greatest bantamweight of all time. Cody Garbrandt's in that fight dancing after he's knocking down Dominic Cruz 3 times in that fight. Tremendous performance by Garbrandt. He's slipping punches. He doesn't give a damn about Dominic Cruz's head movement. He's timing it perfectly. He's putting him down every single time he gets. He probably could have finished Dominic Cruz late in that fight, but again, it went to decision, and Cody Garbrandt won the championship. And after that fight, you had the sneaking suspicion that Cody Garbrandt was going to be at the top of that weight class for a very long time, or until Dominic Cruz potentially got another shot at him. It didn't happen. Right away, he gets that fight against TJ Dillashaw. He loses, and the rest is history. I mean, there's not really much to talk about before Garbrandt's fight against Dominic Cruz. He beats Thomas Almeida. Is really one of the, I think, was he the first guy to beat Almeida? He was, yeah. He was the first guy to beat Almeida. Almeida has not been the same since as well. I mean, good lord, that 4-fight losing streak to Rivera, Font, Martinez, and O'Malley has not been great for him, but Garbrandt beats Almeida, then he beats Mizugaki, and then he gets the fight against Dominic Cruz. That's really all I can say about that. Garbrandt, maybe the quickest striker in all of MMA. Tremendous boxer, coming to this fight with a record of 12 wins and 3 losses. The 3 losses, again, being that 3-fight losing streak to Dillashaw twice and to Pedro Munoz. So let's talk about his opponent here, though. In New England's own Rob Font. Oh, no, John Anik on this card. He's not going to be commentating this one, so no mention of Boston or New England every single second you get, but still, Rob Font coming to this fight currently on a big 3-fight winning streak, and these 3 wins are, first being Sergio Pettis, the new Bellator Bantamweight champion. You know, I didn't make a prediction video for that Bellator card, but just want to point that out there. If you want to, I mean, hey, I'll just flex it real quick. You go to Tapology, you look at Pettis versus Archuleta, you look at the top picks from that card, you know who's number 6 on that damn leaderboard. It is yours truly. I mean, I had my best ever night picking that card. Tremendous. We picked Rumble Johnson to win. The only one we got wrong was really Tricky Pitbull. Other than that, we ran the table in that one, picked Pettis by decision. A lot of perfect picks in the undercard. Just want to flex that real quick. Number 6 in the world, this guy right here. But yeah, Sergio Pettis picking up the Bellator Bantamweight Championship. Tremendous fight over Juan Archuleta. Rob Font, though, that was Sergio Pettis' last loss in the UFC. It was on Leon Quinta 2 over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's Pettis' last loss to this date. After that, Font goes on, picks up a win over Ricky Simon by unanimous decision over on Overeem and Rozenstruik over in Washington, D.C. The final scorecards for that one, you got 29-28, 29-28, and a 30-27, all for Rob Font. And then most recently, it was the win over Marlon Moraes for Font that really made him now, what is it, the number 5 ranked, the number 3 ranked contender in the bantamweight division. He stole Marlon Moraes' number 3 spot in the weight class. Marlon Moraes just really didn't look himself in that one. He really did not. It was a different approach for Marlon Moraes in that fight. He did use some of his wrestling in that one that we do see some from out of Marlon Moraes, but it was a wrestling heavy game plan for Moraes in that fight, and eventually, man, it caught up to him because Rob Font, as soon as they got back to the feet, put away Marlon Moraes, and now again, number 3 in the weight class, something you didn't think you were going to see out of Rob Font, because a guy who does not fight that often. He fought 3 times in 3 years. Now he's back here in 2021, looking for potentially maybe a title shot at the win here. I doubt it, but still, Rob Font's either 1 or 2 fights away from a world championship opportunity. Now, in the Marlon Moraes fight, he does get beat on the ground for a good 3.5 minutes of that fight, and eventually they do stand him up, and Rob Font immediately tags Marlon Moraes with a big straight in that one, big straight left hand, and he stuns Marlon Moraes, then eventually drops him with an uppercut, gets Moraes to the ground, eventually finishes it with a lot of ground and pound. Late stoppage, if we're being honest with that one, from Mark Goddard, but I mean, just tremendous performance by Rob Font after being beat on the ground for 3 minutes, completely dominates Marlon Moraes on the feet and then finishes him on the ground as well. Hey man, this is a boxer's paradise in this one. You're going to see just tremendous boxing in this fight between Rob Font and Cody Garbrandt, maybe to show who really is the best boxer in the 135-pound division. I know Corey Sandhagen's out there, Gia Dillashaw's out there, Piotr Jan's out there as well, and hey, maybe the champion Aljamain Sterling is out there too, but still, There are good boxers in this weight class. This is the best of the best going at it right here between Font and Garbrandt. It is going to be a banger of a fight. I don't really see it hitting the mat. We are going to see someone most likely getting KO'd in this fight. Rob Font, though, coming into this fight with a record of 18 wins and 4 losses. This will be his first ever main event opportunity on a fight night. It will be the first time he will ever go 5 rounds in a UFC octagon for Cody Garbrandt. It will be his 4th ever time going potentially 5 rounds in the UFC octagon as well. This is a very close fight to call, man. Both these guys can tag each other, and both these guys can put away the other guy early in the fight, at the end of the fight. These two guys are so evenly matched. There's a reason these odds are so damn close. I just don't know, man. Again, if you want to give a slight advantage to someone on the ground, you would give it to Rob Font, but I don't think Rob Font's going to come in here and try to take down Cody Garbrandt in his first main event. He is going to try to put away Cody Garbrandt. He's going to try and knock out Cody Garbrandt like he did to Marlon Moraes. Now, I want to mention this real quick, though, before I give you my final prediction. Rob Font against Marlon Moraes, was it Rob Font being tremendous? Well, it definitely was a combination of Rob Font. Rob Font is a tremendous fighter, and he's a really damn good striker, but another thing to mention, Marlon Moraes took that fight on way too short notice. He fought Corey Sandhagen in October. He got knocked out with a spinning wheel kick, broken orbital and all. And then he takes a fight in December and loses to Rob Font by TKO. His chin was definitely gone. Hopefully it's not a permanent thing for Marlon Moraes. We will see how it impacts him down the line. But just a weird fight from Moraes. He took that fight on very short notice, and Rob Font definitely took advantage, which he did what he had to do. But you just got to wonder how much of it was Rob Font or how much of it was Marlon Moraes' chin coming off that spinning wheel kick knockout to the Sandman in Corey Sandhagen. Okay, as for my final prediction, though, I am going to go with Cody Garbrandt. Yeah, I think Garbrandt picks up back-to-back wins here in the octagon. I really like this new patient approach we have seen out of Cody Garbrandt ever since he left training at Team Alpha Male full-time. What we have seen out of Garbrandt at Mark Henry's gym has been absolutely tremendous. Again, the Sunsaw fight, I cannot stress it enough how good he looked in that fight, and if he stays patient in this Rob Font fight, he is going to eventually catch Rob Font. I think he will, and I think you're going to see Cody Garbrandt pick up the win by KO, and I think he gets it done again in the second round. The first round might be a feeling out process. You will see a lot of volume in that one, but when it comes down to it, Cody Garbrandt might be the fastest guy in the sport when it comes to striking, and that's going to play a huge part in this fight, and that's why I'm going with Cody Garbrandt to put away Rob Font in the second round of this fight. And where do you go with Cody Garbrandt from here? I do not know, because currently Rob Font is the number 3 ranked contender, or just honestly, as for the winner of this fight, do I think they get a title shot? I don't think it's going to be the case, because you got Aljamain Sterling probably fighting Yilan later in the year, and you got Corey Sandhagen fighting TJ Dillashaw, which has just been rebooked for July, so you're not getting a title shot for the winner of this fight. I mean, there's really not a fight to make, though, for being honest. I mean, maybe you do the winner of this fight against Yilan, maybe you do that, and you get the winner of Sandhagen versus Dillashaw versus Sterling. Maybe that's what you do. So, yeah, maybe it's that, or if it's Cody Garbrandt, if he wins here, you think he goes back and tries to fight Figueiredo, because we potentially almost got that fight in November last year before Alex Perez had to step in because of the Cody Garbrandt injury. Maybe we see that out of Garbrandt. I really don't want to see him go down to 125. I saw Dillashaw do it. He did not look good down there. Was he on the juice? Yes, he was, but still, don't want to see Garbrandt have to cut those 10 extra pounds. I don't think it's good for him. I think he should stay at 35 and potentially try to make another run for that world championship that is currently possessed by the only American-born male champion in the UFC, in the Funk Master, Aljamain Sterling. But I'm going with Cody Garbrandt, though, and all, to pick up the win in this fight by TKO in the second round. I think he gets the job done, and we're going to see potentially a second run at the belt for Cody No Love Garbrandt, improving to potentially a record of 13 wins and 3 losses. And folks, thank y'all for watching another UFC preview and predictions here on the channel. Again, my apologies for this video getting out on Wednesday, a lot later than I usually want it to be out, but I promise you, for the Rozenstruik and Sakai fight coming up in 2 weeks, that fight card preview and predictions will be out on Monday like normally scheduled. Just this 1 week, I had to get it out a little bit later. It's on Wednesday. Again, my apologies for that. So again, folks, thank y'all for watching. If you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for a lot more UFC here on the channel. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like. If you disagree with any of my predictions, make sure to hit me up down in the comment section down below. Again, folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.